Hello, welcome to Superpower Gaming. I'm your host, Kevin Castley. This is a new series here where we're going to be going through the Twilight Imperium Discordant Stars factions. And in future, I'll be going through the original base factions as well as the Prophecy of Kings factions. But why start with Discordant Stars? Well, there aren't much in the way of content regarding Discordant Stars. The only person I've really seen so far making content on these factions is Esther's Gaming Cave. Now, he's interesting, but I want to do my own style here to break down these factions. And he hasn't gotten to all the factions yet. So go check out his channel. He does good work. His reviews, his strategies are pretty good. They're pretty good. But I'm going to be doing this in my own style, and we're going to be going through these factions as I see them. And I'm somebody who has played a little bit of Twilight Imperium with regards to the 4th edition base and some of the Prophecy Kings factions. Now, I like the game. It's a big game. It takes a while to get people together, right? So you don't get that many chances to play it. But that being said, I know more or less how to play the game now, and I can offer some advice with regards to if you're getting, Discordant Stars, how to win with these guys, right? Now, full disclosure, I haven't actually received the physical board components yet. They're going to be arriving shortly, but I wanted to make these faction guides so that if you're out there and you're looking at, expanding Twilight Imperium sets of factions, and you got some buddies together and you want to play Discordant Stars, well, who are you going to go to? What are you going to do? You can read it on your own, right? But I've thought about these for a little bit, and I think I can offer some advice here. So this is our first episode. We're going to be going through them in the order of how they appear in the Twilight Imperium wiki, and we're going to go through all 34 of the new factions. And once these are done, we'll go through the base 25 or so factions, right? But I want to get these ones out here first because there's a great dearth of content regarding Discordant Stars on YouTube and X and other social media. So, of course, I'm Kevin Castley. Be sure to subscribe to Superpower Gaming. I do all kinds of games on this channel. We're looking at getting into some Civilization stuff, doing some more Pokemon Go stuff, some more DEF CON stuff. I know you guys really like the DEF CON content. And of course, I do board games as well. And this is a board game, but it's also a tabletop simulator game. And in future, once I'm a bit more familiar with Tabletop Simulator, I might do some Discordant Stars content with regards to Tabletop Simulator. But I want to get these basic strategy guides, faction guides out for you because, look, this is pretty brand new stuff within the last couple years. There's a lot of hype around it. And if you've got Discordant Stars, well, again, what are you going to do? You're going to figure it out on your own, or you could go to your boy, Kevin Castley here, and get some advice on these factions. And again, check out Esther's Gaming Cave. He does a lot of great content on this, but he's only got through like maybe a third of these so far. I want to get these out there so that y'all got content guides on, formulating a strategy for how to win so you can win bigger. So we're going to win bigly with the Shipwrights of Axis today. So let's go through these guys here. So how this is going to be structured is we're going to go through the wiki, we're going to go through the faction components, and I'm going to offer some of my advice on the way, whether it's good, whether it's bad. We'll rate the whole faction. And then at the end, once we've done everything here and we've gone through all the 34 factions, I might do a tier list, right? And after I've got some games under my belt, actually at the table with my buddies, seeing how it actually goes, I might come back and offer some adjustments here. But these are my initial thoughts on the 34 Discordant Stars factions of Twilight Imperium. This is an unofficial expansion, but it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of cool stuff here. So let's get into this. You're watching the Axis, or the Shipwrights of Axis. Axis Shipwrights. So let's start here. This is what we're looking at right now. We got these guys here. So it's like these bug guys. They're like space bugs, basically, which is kind of like, well, it's like the Sardak in that sense, but they're more like ants. It's more like space ants than just like general insects or bugs or anything. So kind of playing on that sort of meme from the sort of space genre. I like it. I think it's cool. I think this guy sitting on, all right, it's probably a female actually sitting on the throne there. I think that looks cool. A lot of their names and everything are pretty thematic. Look, I think this faction overall, the aesthetics of it work. It gives really good, space energy with these guys, and that's their whole thing, is that they are a militaristic space faction within the Twilight War. So let's go through this. So now we're just going to take a look at their starting components, and mind the ads here. I do have, ad blocker on here, but this stuff is still showing up here on the website. So let's take a look here. So their starting units, one dreadnought. Well, that kind of goes into their theme, being, ship producers, essentially. They start with a carrier. Okay. We'd prefer to have two carriers, but that's okay. They also start with a destroyer. Okay. Two fighters, three infantry, and a space dog. I'm going to offer some thoughts here already, which is that for their theme of being like the space production, military industrial complex guys, they really probably should have started with more space stuff. I mean, three infantry, I get it. It's to kind of counter and balance out what they thought is other good components to the faction. I mean, you got five commodities right there. You don't see that in the base and Prophecy of Kings expansion to Twilight Imperium 4th edition. You don't have a 5 commodity faction. These guys are a 5 commodity faction. So with Discordant Stars, we're already seeing a breakaway from the convention in terms of getting it a little bit more wacky. So I would have preferred these guys. I get it. You got a lot of 2C, 4I factions. Maybe you want to make it different. Okay, may give them 2 dreadnoughts or something, or may give them a couple more destroyers. This is kind of underwhelming so far. But the starting technologies, I dig. I really like this. They got Sarween tools and AI development algorithm. So, it's kind of giving off the Argent Flight kind of vibes, starting with that yellow and red. With Argent, you start off with Sarween, and you also start off with plasma scoring. These guys, with Discordant Stars, it's trying to mix up the initial tech allocations where, oh, look at that. That's a Prophecy of Kings technology and a base technology together. That's kind of cool. Even in Prophecy of Kings, like Argent Flight starts with 2 base ones, doesn't start with Prophecy of Kings ones. So that's interesting. And I got to say, I really like AI development algorithm. I usually go for that. Sarween is a classic. What I like about them as well is that if you want to play it a little bit more defensively, you can go into PDS2 right off the bat. When I played as Argent Flight a little while ago, I went for PDS2 on the first round, and that, I was able to get a lot of damage out on the first round with that to protect my system. And it was really interesting. It really shook up the game, having a PDS2 faction round 1 out there. It's a force to contend with. So having red and yellow is really good. It also leads into War Suns. You're already halfway to War Suns, and we haven't even started the game yet. So that's good. I like it. I think it works great. Now, their starting planet there is Axis. The thing about Axis is you're starting with 5 resources, right? But 0 influence. Now that's look, 5 resources is good. You've got 5 commodities, so you've got the potential to generate a lot of income that way. I understand that it's a very production themed faction, but you're gonna have a really hard time getting a Mechatol Rex first with these guys. So I would say with them, comment below if you've played these guys. I just don't think it's in any practical sense, in any way that you're going to play these guys. Are you going to be looking to go for Mechatol first, right? So okay, so you give up a Custodian's point, but you're on 5 resources, 0 influence. So you need to pick a slice that's going to have some high influence planets to compensate for this right off the bat. 5 commodities is nice. That's good. I mean, we're right up with Khan tier in that sense. And now they rate the complexity rating here as moderate. Uh, Now that's going to be because of the Axis orders that are going to come up. They're a little different. I understand why these guys are getting a moderate rating, because it's not a simple, straightforward, just build stuff and go out and do space risk sort of thing. There's a little bit more going on here. And of course, these guys, their faction colors are black, red, and yellow. And so for these guides, I'm going to try to have my background lighting here set up each time with the colors of the faction. So I don't have black light, but we got red and yellow lights in the background. So I hope you guys dig that. So here we go. So their faction abilities. Let's get into this. So military industrial complex, MIC. After you gain or replenish commodities, you may spend a number of commodities equal to the combined cost listed on any number of Axis order cards in your reinforcements to place those cards in your play area. You cannot give your commodities to other players as part of a transaction. So these guys are a little different. That's why they're getting a moderate rating here. They play around Axis order cards. They don't play around the commodity. So it's a little different. It's interesting. This leads into their second faction ability, arms dealers. When a player negotiates a transaction, they may exchange Axis order cards, and we'll get to those cards and what they are and what they do in their play area as part of that transaction. You cannot resolve the effects of Axis order cards. So this trips up some folks, right? You don't get to play these guys. You don't get to resolve these Axis order cards. The Axis orders are ordered and carried out by the other players at the table. You're the one delivering their production orders, essentially. You are the military industrial complex. They are foreign entities purchasing the deals that you have to offer. You're essentially the factory of the galaxy. You have your own stuff. You can produce your own stuff. This dynamic plays to trade. So these guys, I mean, you think about it, they start with the Dread. They're very space combat themed in that sense. They're also a trade faction. These guys can play very defensively, actually. I already talked about that, how starting with a red and a yellow leads directly round 1 into PDS2 if you wanted to go in that direction. So you can become a bulwark. You can actually play this game very diplomatically with these guys. This is interesting. So these guys, they're kind of a cross in that sense between the energy of somebody like Argent Flight, which also has that dynamism to it that you can play very offensively or very defensively in it, depending on how you tech out. It also has Hakan vibes, where you're going to be trading a lot. You're going to be doing a lot of diplomacy. So these guys are interesting. Their faction promissory note. When one or more of your units, and of course it should be noted, of course, you trade this away. You don't get to use this. This is something that somebody else will profit from. You trade this away in exchange for something from them, unless you're playing against like Imperium or something and they take your promissory note, basically. But under most circumstances, this is going to be traded away. When one or more of your units use production, place this card face up in your play area to apply +4 to the production value of those units and reduce the combined cost of produced units by 1 for this use of production. At the start of the status phase, return this card to the Axis player. That's actually uber powerful. That's a very powerful and potent promissory note. I've skimmed through these factions. I've read through Base and Prophecy of Kings. I've played a few Base, a couple Prophecy of Kings factions. This is upper tier. This is a high tier promissory note. Look, having +4 to production, that's insane. You're basically doubling the production capacity of an average space dock, right? So that's already insane. +4 to a space dock, essentially, right? It's normally going to be a space dock producing this stuff. You're on, say, a 2 resource planet. You +2 with a standard space dock 1. You're under +4 production. You go up that turn to +8 production. Additionally, you get a free Star Ween for that round out of this. This is worth a lot. Now, I don't know what it's worth. I haven't done the math on this yet. I'm sure somebody has or somebody will. You're going to want a few trade goods for this. if you're out there and there's an Axis player at your table, you're going to want to be the one getting this promissory note. You're not going to want one of your neighbors to get that promissory note because they're going to be able to spam out units to go and take your stuff. This is something you're going to be wanting to be the prime bidder for, because yes, it's very powerful to have it. It's also very good to keep your opponents from getting this, because you don't want them to be able to spam a ton of fighters and infantry come and take your stuff, because even if they have a ton of material resources, even if they have a ton of trade goods, even if they have a ton of unexhausted planets that they could use in their production cycle, they're going to be capped and bottlenecked by the limitations of their standard space dock, which is usually around a 4 production unless they've double docked. This is basically a free double dock without having to use a construction. That's pretty potent. So this is a very powerful card. You want it. It'll increase your potential to empire build, and it'll also be very good to keep out of the hands of your opponents if you want to win the game. Moving on to faction technologies. Rift engines. Now, this one's an interesting one. After you activate a system, you may exhaust this card to choose one ship you control and roll a die. On a result of 1 to 3, you will remove that ship from the game board. So it's basically a gravity rift. On a result of 4 of 10, apply +2 to that ship's move during this tactical action. So it's basically a double gravity rift. It's a double black hole. It's high risk, high reward. Basically, look, if you had to choose between going through a black hole or doing this, you're better off doing this, right? Because you're getting a +2 out of it instead of a +1. Now, the problem is you might lose the ship. I actually think this is bad because you're actually having to research it. If it was just like a free faction ability, that'd be one thing. Maybe you consider, look, you need to Kingslay or something. It's the final turn. You got to take big risks, right? It's that time where, you got to risk it for the biscuit, right? And may your ship gets vaporized or falls below the event horizon, never to be seen again, right? Maybe it works and you get over there. You get to take out whoever's winning and you get to buy some time. You got to make desperate moves in desperate times, right? But no, that's not what this is. This is literally, you have to actively research it, which means that there's an opportunity cost implied here, which is that you could have researched something else. We're in blue 2, basically. We're at the second level on blue. What's blue? Blue is movement technology, right? So, if you're relatively new to the game or you don't have that much experience with Twilight Imperium, you can think of the technologies as I say it, which is blue zooming, red's booming, yellow's scheming, green's memeing. That's basically what it boils down to. So these are the propulsion technologies in blue. These are the technologies that can win you the game very frequently. You could go for sling relay instead. You could go for gravity drive instead. Gravity drive. Okay, it's not as high risk, high reward. You're only getting a +1 out of it. Yeah, but you also don't have a 40% chance that your ship's going to get destroyed. So I think, no, I should say it's a 30% chance here that your ship's going to get destroyed. I think that I wouldn't bother researching this personally. It's too risky and it's too much investment into it. Even if it was a free tech, you're better off going with something else. You're better off, honestly, I could see even like decks of animators being a better tech than this. So, emergency deployment is the second tech here. Now, this one's expensive. This is yellow. It's a yellow 4, so you gotta have 3 yellow prerequisites for it. These guys start with 1, so it's also worth noting they don't start with 1 blue tech. Now, you're probably going to be researching blue tech as it is. Look, you don't even start with blue. Rift engines, to me, nah, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it unless you're super desperate or something. But emergency deployment, action. Exhaust this card to place or move one of your space docks onto a planet you control that does not contain a space dock. So it's kind of like half of a primary of construction. It's basically the secondary of construction without having to put the token down there. It's also an exhaust action, which is a stall. It's a stall. That's very good. That's very powerful. It's not just that you can place it, it also allows you to move it around. In other words, you've already got all your space docks on the board. You want to stall, you want to get that sorrow energy going, you want to stall it out to the end. Well, guess what? You can just move it around. You might actually need to move it around. There might be some strategic utility to that. You might want to move it to Mechatol. You might want to move it adjacent to Mechatol. You might want to move it closer to one of your enemies, so you can be producing stuff out there in their neck of the woods. That's a really powerful, very powerful faction technology. Problem is super expensive. We don't usually go that far down yellow. I can't really think of this making a lot of sense given that you don't get that much tech in the game. Like, I think if you have a yellow skip, then we're having more of a conversation here. I think if you have a yellow skip, you already start with one, you just research one more yellow. I would say, like, I'm more of a PDS guy. I would do gravity or graviton laser drive, and I would do, you've already got your Serween, you do your yellow skip, you get to emergency deployment. That works really well if you've already gone PDS2. That way you're specifically targeting their big ships with graviton. Very defensive. They're not really going to mess with you. And the ability to move your space docks around means that you have a lot more strategic leeway with regards to how you want to play this defensively or offensively. That you're able to draw back in or expand outwards in terms of where your forward deployment will be there. I think it's good. I think it's really good. You're going to be getting your space docks out. You got some structure objectives in the game. This is a good technology to have. I think it works for their faction as well. So it's a very pricey thing, but if you got a yellow skip, I could see this getting pulled off really easily. So let's move on to the additional components here. So these guys have additional components. These are their order cards. So they've got an Axis order for Dreadnoughts, Carrier, Cruiser, and Destroyer. The card texts are all pretty similar. So at the end of your turn, exhaust this card to place one Dreadnought from your reinforcements in a system that contains one or more of your ships and one of your command tokens. At the start of the status phase, if this card is exhausted, return it to the Axis player's reinforcements. Very important to note here. I've already gone over this, but if you're thinking you're going to play these guys and you're going to spam out ships with these things, no, you're not. These are the other players. When it says at the end of your turn, that's in reference to whoever else is there. You're playing as Titans. Okay, you're the Titan player. You exhaust this and you produce a Dreadnought in one of your Titan systems that has a Titan command token down and one of your ships. Basically, right? You got a destroyer there, boom, now you got a destroyer and a Dreadnought there. You give this back at the end of the status phase over to the Axis player. Axis player, you're not getting anything out of this in terms of the effect of it. You're trading these things away for other stuff. That's how that works. Axis order carrier, ditto, except it's a carrier. So yeah, I have one of your command tokens down, so you already would have had to move into that system, right? You don't get it at the start. You move somewhere, you add to your fleet, but you're already locked down. So unless you got warfare or something, it's stuck there. Or unless you're Mahawked or something, it's stuck there. Axis order cruiser, ditto, but for a cruiser. That's cool. That's cool. You can see these are kind of going down in terms of their value. Dreads, very, very important. So now it's worth noting here, these are the orders available. So they've got 2 of each of these sets. So you've got 8 in total. Now there's to place one Dreadnought and so on. So there's their cost there that's beside it. You notice, like, okay, cost of 3, cost of 2, cost of 1, cost of 1. Okay, that makes sense. For Axis order destroyers, this is a little different. You exhaust this card to place 2 destroyers, premium reinforcements, and that makes sense because destroyers are a bit cheaper. 2 destroyers, like, just like that, that's really good. If you're like Argent Flight or something and there's an Axis player in the game, you're going to want that access order for destroyers. You'll get your destroyers out max very quickly with these guys. Now, if your Axis, probably don't trade it to them unless you get something good out of it. Let's move on to the flagship. So the Bearer of Heavens. It's a cost of 8, combat 7, times 2, movement of 1, capacity 3. So, it's a mid-tier flagship in terms of those attributes. Abilities. Sustain damage. Okay. After this ship produces 1 or more hits during a round of space combat, you may repair 1 ship you control in the system. So that's got like some Duranium armor energy going to it. That's kind of cool. It's an interesting ability. It's a mid ship. I'd say it's pretty mid. Could come in clutch, depending, right? I mean, getting able to repair, it's pretty good. You got dreadnoughts or something in there. It's not bad. Your mech is the Forge Tender. You may treat a space dock on this planet the mech is stationed in as if it has production 5. Well, that's pretty good. So you can put this space dock on a planet with 0 resources, and as long as you got a mech there, it's got production 5. That's pretty cool. That's an interesting mech. So it's a cost of 2, hits on a 6 standard in that regard. It's got sustained damage to it. Interesting mech. Works out well for them. So now let's move on to the leader suite. We have our agent here. Just going to get some water. We have our agent, Shipmonger Zisknik, Forge World Merchant. Unlock criteria, it starts with you unlock there. The ability, action, exhaust this card to choose 1 player. That player may place 1 cruiser or 1 destroyer from their reinforcements in a system that contains their ships. Then if you chose another player, gain 2 commodities. So that's a way to get commodities back or to up your fleet. Are you going to go cruiser or destroyer? I don't know. You could go with these guys, cruiser 2. You only need 1 green tech to get there, or green skip. That's not bad. Destroyer 2, very good argument. These guys can go destroyer 2. They're already 1 red. You just need 1 more red or a red skip. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And you do that every turn, basically. You're getting 5 free ships on average out of that. That's not bad. That's not bad. Their commander is Designer Tikvisk, Diligent Retro Engineer. The unlock requirement is to have 4 Axis Order cards of different unit types in 1 or more players' play areas. So you're going to want to get those Axis Order cards out. So that's where your trading is going to be a little bit hampered because people know you want to get them out. So you're not going to be able to command as much for them as you might normally. Because people know you want to unlock this guy, right? So now what does he do? After a player resolves an Axis Order card, you may spend 6 resources to gain the corresponding unit upgrade technology. So that's good. And your home world already starts with 5. So you keep that unexhausting. You got to trade good. Anytime anybody activates their Axis Order and says, yeah, I want to take advantage of this. Got an order here. I want to produce a Dread. Boom. You don't even need to research blue tech or whatever. You can get Dread too if you got 6 resources there. That's very powerful. Again, the units that we're looking at that you're have in this potential here are your Dreads, your Cruisers, your Carriers, and your Destroyers. You've already got red and yellow starting with, so you're going to have a pretty easy time to get Cruiser 2 or Destroyer 2, but you're not necessarily going to have that easy of a time getting to Dread 2 or Carrier 2. But these guys come out, boom, you can actually get your unit upgrade techs out there for blue stuff without actually going down the blue route. Now, you might want to go down blue anyway because they're pretty potent technologies, right? Propulsion technologies. But that's interesting. And because you're already starting with AI development algorithm, the more unit upgrade technologies you have, every time you produce, you can exhaust that AI dev algo, and you're reducing by the number of unit upgrade technologies that you have. So let's say that you go and you get a green and you decide you're actively research Carrier 2. Cool. You're zooming around the galaxy with those guys. You get your Destroyer 2 out. So now you're spamming anti-fighter barrage. That's very good, right? Okay. Well, guess what? Other players at the table activate a couple of the Axis orders, and one of them goes for dreads, one of them goes for carriers, for example. Boom. You have 12 resources, some planets hanging by, waiting for people to activate those Axis orders. You've got 4 upgrade technologies now. You've got Dread 2. You didn't even go blue, and you've got Dread 2. You've got Carrier 2. Not only are you going to be hitting higher on combat, your dreads can't be direct hit, but you're also, every time you produce, you can exhaust your AI dev algo, and you can reduce the cost by 4. So now you can produce War Suns for 8 instead of 12. These guys have the potential to be a good War Sun faction, right? So now let's move on to the hero. Our hero here is the Galactic, or rather, it's the Demi Queen, Medix, whatever that's pronounced like, Commissioner of Profits. Have 3 scored objectives is the unlock criteria. The Galactic Field Test, aggressive marketing. The action here is to purge this card and give 1 or more Axis order cards in your play area to 1 or more other players. For each Axis order card you give to another player, you may force that player to give you 1 promissory note from their hand. So if you're at a table with like 8 people, theoretically, you can give out 7 of your Axis order cards, and you can take 7 promissory notes. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. It's not the most overwhelming, combat wise or anything, but you're getting a lot. You're getting a lot of unit upgrades out there potentially. You might not even actively research any unit upgrade technologies. You might focus on other stuff and then just have your resources ready for when these guys take advantage of their orders. And you're getting Destroyer 2, you're getting Carrier 2, you're getting Cruiser 2, and you're getting Dread 2 without going down those tech paths actively. That's really interesting. I think this faction, all in all, it's pretty interesting. I think you got to play this diplomatically. I think these guys have a weak point, which is that they don't start with blue tech. I think the fact that other people, they determine when they activate those Axis orders, I think that hinders your ability to determine your destiny in the game quite a bit. A lot of your ability to be a really potent faction with these guys is depending on other people and what they're doing. So, and that's how a lot of factions are in this game. You just got to be aware of that. And I think, let me know in the comments if you've won with these guys, if you play with these guys, if you think they're interesting. I think all in all, and we'll do a tier list and everything once this is done, once we've done all the faction reviews. But I think they're mid. I think their faction techs aren't as good as I'd like them to be. I think having a cost of 3 on yellow, it's pretty high. It's pretty high. If that was a cost of 2, it'd be a lot more reasonable, especially given that we got yellow to start with. All we need is a skip and we can get there. Going 3 yellow without a tech skip is almost unserviceable. Rift engines is unserviceable. I don't see that being a worthwhile use of tech research. I'd rather get dark energy tap. I'd rather get sling relay. I'd rather get gravity drive. If I've got a skip, available to me in blue, I don't really see myself choosing rift engines. I think these guys are, they're funky. I like their aesthetics. I think they're kind of cool. I would try these guys out for sure. But at the end of the day, I think there are more powerful factions out there. I think, if the table decides they know that you can become a powerhouse and they don't really take advantage of their Axis orders, they just sit on them because they don't want you to get those unit upgrades, I think they can really hurt your game. And in that sense, I think their complexity rating of moderate makes a lot of sense because you need to therefore incentivize players to activate those. You need to incentivize players to do what you want to get your engine going here. And, there's some finessing that needs to go on there in order to make it work. But this has been the faction guide for the Shipwrights of Axis. I'm, of course, Kevin Castley. Be sure to check me out over on X at Kevin Castley. Subscribe to this channel here, Superpower Gaming. We do video games and now some board game content as well. And be sure to check me out over on Patreon and check out my main channel, Superpower Broadcasting, if you're interested in news, politics, world events, that sort of stuff. So with that, I will see you in the next video. And uh, hopefully you get a win with these guys out there. I'd be really interested in hearing about it. So yeah, stay based, folks.